That's the only way we communicate. That's the only way we're connected, truly. That which gave me life, that's the yolk. You know? Or that's the baby in the sack and the yolk that connects me to life and sentience and consciousness and all that. Time. That's God. That's the abstract, yet very finite, yet very infinite. And that's why it confuses people. It confuses people because they try to personify it like themselves and say, God only likes certain people, God only loves certain people, and he loves the people that I love, not the people I don't love. And maybe that's our problem, because each of us being a God then, having this power to make these decisions and have impact and influence over the reality, over the creation. You remember the old stories of the gods? You've mentioned them, the two-faced god Janus and all the rest of them, the Roman gods. That mythology represented something, didn't it? It represented men who were seen as demigods. Some people have gone on about the Nephilims and all of that.
He has been deeply committed to investigation, insight, and innovation. A prolific creator and builder, Jacques has been redesigning our entire culture for most of his life. Jacques Fresco doesn't want to just talk about what today will be like tomorrow.
So I don't fight what Jacques doing at all. He's got some good ideas. He's a human being.
It's just science fiction.
So the models that I make...
Yeah, but some of it is pretty clever. I remember Tomorrow's World. They used to show you all sorts of things on that, and then they just stop the program. It's like they just don't want you to see a future. Do you understand? Anybody who's talking about the future, in the future will be better, in the future will be fine. So it's like people have stopped talking about that because the now determines the future. And no one can see what the now is. The now is opportunity.
They project a future which is much like the now, only more so.
Well, the future is like the other, the now is like the self. And the past is like the other.
The whole point of the status quo is to maintain the status quo.
Are you betting that people will not declare war on each other? So
There's only, you know, I do see what you say, you know, answers come from yourself. But you can't shut the world off and say there is no other.
Remember this.
The job of the self is to look at the other and to see what it needs, how we can help.
Can't help anyone unless it helps
So your
yourself.
range of
Complete
thought
yourself.
is limited by the dominant...
Alright, let's assume for 1 minute that's possible, and we did that.
No, there's no way you did that, because every time you say, oh, I've done that, and you've
No,
not done it.
I'm not saying I've done it. I'm asking you a question. I'm saying let's assume a man did that. Let's assume a man.
Complete that
In the
task.
early stages of civilization.
Well,
Right. Then what's the next step? What's the next step?
Never mind the next step. You ain't deal with the first step. You're talking about the second.
Because that seems like a whole life of self-indulgence.
Well, maybe, but it's the one thing that's worthwhile.
But is that responsibility?
It's more worthwhile than rushing off.
Worthwhile and
ignorant to try and
responsibility.
help someone when you don't know the harmful effects of your interference.
Well, as a parent, I've got different responsibilities that I have to look
you're
at.
stuck with your responsibilities. You've got to deal with those responsibilities. I can't expect you to.
I don't have to deal with them. I choose.
You've got to.
Human beings choose.
You've got to. You can't walk my path right now.
As a scientist,
I don't, you know, even if people end up in jail, which some people do, that was their choice to not deal with something, innit? Or to do something.
remain as testaments to his innovation.
No, responsibility is key to being an adult, and that's what I'm saying. When the other comes into it, it's a whole new set of lessons right there. That if you haven't learnt about self, well, yeah, you're going to struggle with other.
Scientist, architect, and inventor.
That's
Was
cheap.
very, remember your names, but anyway, I'm John. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. How are you? Have a seat, and then we'll go on with what this is about. Is everybody here? So, there was a time when most people believed that the decisions of the majority was very close to reality. But there was also a time when the majority of people believed the earth was flat. And if you ask me whether they were sincere, they said, of course you can see it's flat. So they break a sincerity meter. But it isn't sincerity that the world needs. It needs the intelligent management of the Earth's resources. This is what we don't have. The major contribution the Future by Design would like to provide is a method of coping with problems.
Pause it.
Now,
Pause
you're
it.
brought up to believe.
Right. Right. It's not sincerity, he says, that we need.
Not sincere ignorance, but what he could be saying is that what we need to do is make people aware, not that we should delegate things to the technical classes, he would say it, but what I would say, everyone should become aware.
Responsible.
Then you can be sincerely knowledgeable rather than sincerely ignorance.
That part makes sense. But there's other things, right, that are, like, because he's a man who's completely got rid of the ethical question, I suppose. It's like, we should just do this, and he's saying people have got religions and that's a cop-out, and people have got this and that's a cop-out, and these somehow restrict that. And I'm of the opinion, but wait, maybe in present day time, because of the way things have changed over time, people don't realise that what they're worshipping then is a false belief, a false idol. It's just false in every way, and it doesn't yield the true fruits of true knowledge. And part of that true knowledge, like you said, knowledge of self, which is knowledge of the other, God, who created self, who is also yet one with other, who is the true self. So, without sincerity, well, compassion and sincerely being compassionate, even if you don't have all the answers, they're there. I can't do such and such. I can't, fix your car, but I can make you a cup of tea and make you feel better. Sincerely. There's people who work in public service. They've only got a basic job to do. And most of it's yes or no rubber stamp job. Just press a computer key to say yes or no, you can have that. And yet, you're saying they need a technical know-how. Basically, the thing with Jack's solution is that it requires a cashless society, a society that doesn't value things like I work hours for money. Instead, it needs to value I work hours to keep the human race alive, and I'm one of those human beings.
For the state.
Not for the state.
That's
Not the government state, but for the true state that we should be looking at, which is to be alive, existing. Existing is a state of being. You've heard of that before, haven't you? Not to confuse it or make it sound wishy-washy, like it's just, the government or we with the state of being. No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, it's a condition. Everything's in a condition. You've got gas, liquid and solid. That's a state. What causes things to be in that state? There's a cause to things. It's not just a case of here's some solutions, let's resource manage it and everything will be okay. Because the people resource managing, here's the problem, right, would be, in today's world, be straight out of the most powerful elite. And we already know what they think of humanity. They want most of us dead. They see themselves as, well, we deserve to be here because we've got more money. But weren't they also born into riches? Therefore, it's an automatic I win. We've kept the board, we've kept the game, we've kept the rules on our side, and no one else therefore can ever get through. So what are we? We're just cattle and cannon fodder, for the people to experiment with. It's not that his solutions are great, but he must include things like love. He must include things like compassion. And therefore it's going to make it very complicated for anyone to discuss anything. One of the things I've been warned about, and I see it coming, is this state of babbleism, where people are basically babbling. Maybe people say I babble, and they're probably right, because we're trying to discover ourselves using flimsy words, flimsy words that barely discuss how I'm feeling. I wish I could just show you, put it on a screen, draw a picture or whatever, and that be the answer. But life ain't so simple, otherwise the Bible would be like one line or one page.
That everyone should have a right to their own opinion. Is that the way you were brought up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. when you got everybody going around giving their opinion, I'll tell you what's wrong with Jim. They got all kinds of opinions. But when engineers talk to each other, they don't say, believe me. They say, see this new metal? It can hold up 4,000 pounds per square inch. He puts it in a machine and pulls it apart. He says, you're right. So I would say the majority of the people of the world today are unsane, not insane. Unsane meaning having been exposed to methods of evaluation that are long rendered obsolete.
Or corrupted
Our language
by those that have been
changed
given it.
to a saner language where we have no argument in it. I said, well, can there be such a language? There is. When engineers talk to each other, it's not subject to interpretation.
Double
Yeah.
plus good.
They use
Yeah.
math, they use descriptive systems. If I interpreted what...
But again, that's based on systems of fear and control, isn't it? You say this or
You
else.
couldn't build bridges. You couldn't build dams. You couldn't build power transmission lines. The language has to have meaning.
Let's talk about the language of maths and absolutes.
Socrates had talked about the same thing.
What is love the absolute? Because love matters a great deal in the world, but it's not an absolute. There's many
There are
ways
many
to get
people that
there.
have seen everything that he's gone through in
And
the
people have
past.
different ways of
Unless you
interpreting what they
love
love.
God, what people tend to do
And the
for
interesting
recently.
thing is,
Hold on, pause
too,
it.
that he's
It's
not a
just-
philosopher that
Wanna hear
talks
what you're
about how
saying.
the world
into
should
the loved
be.
one
Yeah,
properties which aren't there.
yeah.
Whereas where you're dealing with love for God, those properties generally are there in either a real or a symbolic sense.
So they have to be there for you to love them.
The love that people feel,
Hmm.
unless it's directed at God, isn't really being fulfilled. But it's being fulfilled in whichever way people can feel themselves managing it, given the circumstances. If they love a woman, in theory they should be loving God, and they're directing that love faculty towards a woman.
But they
Which
can't
can
love,
be- which
love
can be a
God
very-
and a woman as well. Are you saying
can
that the
do, you can
love,
do,
love
you
of a
can
woman
do.
blinds the man to the love of
You
God,
can
or
do,
does it
well-
great or increase it and make
Well,
him more
It
grateful?
mostly distracts, especially in this age.
You see, again, I find these that everybody projects their life experience, and it can't be helped. Just like, you know, Jacques Fresco says, people are not insane as such; they're just unsane because they don't have all the
Pertinent facts.
pertinent facts because they weren't given to them. He doesn't actually arrive at
They haven't had time to discover them.
the knowledge is there. The knowledge is there, and schooling, the people that say set the education system have a responsibility to everybody else, since they've said that they're going to do such a thing, to make sure that everybody gets the right kind of knowledge that's useful, that's needed.
In a society like this, that's how to fit into the production line of either production or consumption.
Right. Brainwashing just to get into the mechanicalized job society.
It's not necessarily brainwashing, though, is it? It's just giving them a very limited range of knowledges which are pertinent to the runnings.
Yeah, would your
This
parents
state
who
system.
love you limit your knowledge and just say, I'm just going to teach you one word and that's it?
If they're ignorant, then who's to say? But if they prepared themselves before having children, they'd have all the answers.
Well, that's the thing. Who's to say? When I say something, people say, no, you got no right to say that. Just like Zach Fresco says, you know, people who don't have my knowledge, my position on life, don't have the right to speak.
Right. Well, Moses goes up to the mountain. Aaron and his brothers left downstairs. They do go about with foolishness. Not being funny, but Moses probably said, look.